When the Supreme Court struck down the need for preclearance in the Shelby versus Holder case, they issued members of Congress a challenge. That challenge was to find a modern-day formula that applies to jurisdictions with a recent history of voter discrimination. And the Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2015 meets that challenge.
The right to vote casts an unfettered vote, and to have that vote counted accurately, I believe, are cornerstones to our democracy. And in recent months and last several years, we've seen attempts by many jurisdictions to establish impediments to the exercise of that right. Ever since the Supreme Court's decision in the Shelby case, we have seen these things proliferate. And the Supreme Court said in Shelby that Congress should move to update the formula that it cast out. And that's exactly what the Voting Rights Advancement Act is all about.
The fight for voting rights is not over. The Supreme Court made a bad decision, trying to take us back. And because of that decision, we see states all over America. That's why we must continue to press on. The vote is powerful. It is precious. It is the most powerful nonviolent instrument or tool we have in a democratic society.
The recent assault on voting rights is shameful, and the Asian American and Pacific Islander community knows all too well what it's like to be prevented from voting. It was Congress that passed the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which prevented Chinese Americans from becoming naturalized citizens so that they could not vote. For 60 long years this lasted, leaving a legacy of disenfranchisement. And it wasn't until the Voting Rights Act was passed 50 years ago that much of this changed for APIs and other communities of color that had previously been shut out of the process.
An injustice to one community is an injustice to all communities. The Latino community faces discriminatory voter ID laws, lack of multi-language materials, and even last-minute voting changes. Every time an early voting site is eliminated or a voter ID law is implemented, that's another Latino being kept from their right to vote. We need to fix the gutted Voting Rights Act and make it easier, not harder, for people to vote. Because the success of our country depends on the success of the Latino community.
When President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the landmark Voting Rights Act in 1965, he called that day a triumph for freedom as huge as any victory that has ever been won on any battlefield. The brave foot soldiers of the voting rights movement fought, bled, and died for this sacred right, and we have inherited that legacy. We must restore the vote.
Restore the vote.
Restore the vote.
Restore the vote.
Tenemos que restaurar el derecho al voto.
Restore the vote.
Since elections are held on Tuesdays, we're declaring that every Tuesday Congress is in session is Restoration Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we're asking each and every member of Congress to wear the Restore the Vote ribbon pin and to speak on the House floor about the importance of restoring the voting rights. We cannot silence any voices in our electorate. These are the voices of the excluded. We must restore the vote.